Right, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the stick mix I'm using. Now, historically, if you like, I've always made my stick mixes at home. I've written as much countless times, like, you know, I had an old food processor my mum got me from a car boot sale years ago, and funny enough, it has only just broken this summer. Like, I've had it all them years, all them stick mixes I've made in it, like, you know, but it makes a, you know, what is an awkward job so simple. So because I always use the food processor, my mixes have always been really milled, you know, really fine powder. And I've used them, like, compressed them massively and tried to get it to be an integral part of how the rig works, you know, how you cast the rig, how it laid itself out, how it broke down over the hook link and the hook. You know, I went into it almost scientifically because I did it so much for so long. But more recently I've become a lot more ad hoc, you know, because I haven't been doing it as much, and I've just started the occasional lakes I'm going to, I'm doing a bit more of it again, like, you know, lakes like Sandhurst, where we are at the minute. But to be honest with you, you know, I usually keep a collection of stuff in the car for just this sort of occasion. You know, I'll come to a lake and I think, you know what, I need a stick mix. So I've got a few bits in the motor. So anyway, right, here we go. Some solar liquid Bellican. Obviously now, and I've used it for years. I've written about Bellican in its block form for years, about how fantastic an additive it is. It is incredibly potent. Do you know, some of my mixes, people like reach when they smell them, you know, what on earth is that? And they say, man, it's full of all the good stuff, like, you know, me shrimp paste and me Bellican and all me little special liquids. But everything I use is natural, right? And it's almost impossible to overdo natural attractors. You know, if you understand what I mean. We're not talking synthetic attractors here, man-made attractors. These are natural. Almost everything I use and have used in stick mixes over the years is all natural. And anyway, literally, so I've come here to make a stick mix, right? I stopped on the way up, and actually before I came I bought several tins of sardines in brine, which are really oily, nice and salty liquid on them. You know, you pour the liquid in, everything goes, it's all good stuff, it's all releasing out on the lake bed where you want it to. But I forgot them, you know. Anyway, so I went to the local shop, bought some wild Atlantic salmon in a tin. It's about, to me, it's the next best thing. You know, people rave about tuna, which, you know, by comparison, all this sort is bland and totally uninteresting. But, you know, a nice tin of proper Atlantic red salmon, that wild stuff, you know, it's got nice red juice in it and oil, and you can see all the oil bubbles and the flesh texture's lovely. So I bought a couple of tins of that into a bag, a quarter crusher that I had in my bag as well. It's a handy little item just to keep with you. I've got some pellets with me. I've got a load of Baitech pellets. These I've been using a lot lately, little shrimp ones. They've been brilliant, really good. Little sprinkle in a bag. I just like the shrimpy smell of them. They're very salty as well. I'll tell you why I really liked them. I made a little crusher mix up and then forgot about it and went back fishing the next week, opened it up, and the smell was just like an old fish shop. You know, sometimes you go to an old fish market and it stinks of hot, really high rancid fish and all that sort of really high fish smell, which I really like as an attractor. So I put a load of them in, crush them up to powder, like 2 or 3 crusherfuls. Same size but with the halibut ones, nice oily halibut pellets. Same thing again, cut the crushers full, crush them right down. So I've got 2 big loads of powder to start as my base. Then I always carry ground bait in the car. I use it for so many things. If I make a spod mix, I'll use it to stodge it up and to make it go further and to soak up all the attractors again. So I've always got ground bait in the car. This one I've never used before. It's a fish meal ground bait. I read on the thing, fish meal ground bait. I thought, you know, again, this time of year, it's more food orientated, the sort of little bit of fishing I'm doing. So yeah, fish meal ground bait, that's great for a base, so another slush of that in there. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what you make a stick out of. More recently, you know, I've been on other lakes, I've been using literally just crushed boilie and a little bit of crushed pellet, a tiny little bag. It's all so simple. But anyway, I've added it all into the thing. I've got it to like a nice manageable texture. It's very fibrous, that salmon, it goes a long way. So a couple of tins of that, it's got a really rich smell. So I mixed it all up, all the whole tin in, the liquid, everything, mix it all up. And the idea is to get to a consistency, really, where, you know, where it'll do that, it'll hold together in one piece when you squeeze it in the palm of your hands. Just like that is, really, that's perfect. I've always written before, you know, to keep them overnight. Well, I made this yesterday, it's been sat overnight, soaking, it's at its best now. The only addition that I do talk about, you know, the thing I'm very conscious of that when they break down. Even that very small stick here will break down to leave a really quite considerable area on the bottom, very blatant, very obvious. And although the water's coloured, this is quite a light mix, you can see. Once that breaks down, all the liquid comes out of it, all the bits and bobs, that'll that'll pale right, it'll wash right out. Normally, for a lot of my mixes over the years, I've used a black ground bait, which has got black colouring, obviously, to darken and dull everything down. You know, you'd be on like a really clear gravel pit that's weedy, little sandy spots and blah, blah. You know, I've always, on those sort of lakes, I've tried to make it less obvious. So you've still got a real impact of loads of oil and attraction coming up off the lake bed, but not a big blatant spot. For, you know, I'm sure you get what I'm saying. But in a nutshell, yeah, that's my mix. That's how I'm using it today. It is a little bit obvious, but we're at Sandhurst. The water's quite coloured. You know, it's a bit nip and tuck, my sort of fishing exactly, you know, chucking around trying to get a quick bite. That's what I do. That's my bread and butter fishing. It suits me down to the ground. So I just keep the little sticks small. And as you can see, they're nice and hard, well formed. That'll go out there. That'll give me enough time to sink my line. Basically, when I'm fishing about 100 turns out, I have to overcast my water a bit. And I feel the lead down, it smacks straight away. Pick the rod up, couple of quick turns, drop it, smack again. Couple of quick turns, drop it. It might go a touch deeper and you get a softer drop. So all those very little variation in topography out there, by reeling it back, but because I've compressed this pellet really well, I can get like 5 or 6 reel backs before that was to break away from the rig. So I can go donk, donk, duck, a little bit. That's me bite, and that's exactly what I did yesterday, and that's how I caught my carp. So there you go, stick fishing. You know, really easy, but you know, you have to give it a little bit of thought. The more thought you give it, it's like any aspect of angling. The more thought you give it, and the more sort of commitment you give it, the better it works for you.